jigsaw is one of the most versatile saws you can actually get. These are perfect for cutting curved shapes in all materials. They are also adequate at cutting straight lines. I say adequate because if you are cutting a dead straight line, it is often easier using a circular saw, although a jigsaw will do the job. The cheaper machines really struggle cutting straight lines. They also struggle cutting curves, so you are much better off buying a decent quality machine. In this demonstration we're going to use this DeWalt 18 volt cordless jigsaw. This is a very good machine and it is extremely useful. I'll now show you some of the things you can do with a saw like this. The most important thing when you're using a jigsaw is choosing the correct blade. In this instance we've got a Bosch Progressor wood blade in the machine. That is a very good blade. And then over here to the side we've got a few other blades. If the blade has very small teeth like that, it's probably going to be a metal cutting blade. They have much smaller teeth than the wood cutting blades, but you can also get fine cut wood blades that also have small teeth. A lot of the blades actually say on them what they are for, but some of them don't. If we look at the Bosch one, that is a down cutting blade. A jigsaw always cuts on the upstroke, unless of course you put one of these blades in which case it cuts on the downstroke. That means that you can cut laminate and worktops and things like that without actually chipping off the laminate. That blade's got very large teeth on it, so you can be almost certain that that is a wood cutting blade. If you're cutting plastic, a metal cutting blade normally works fine, although you can get dedicated blades for cutting plastics. That was a quick look at the blades. We're now going to take a look at the machine itself. The actual blade fits in the machine differently depending on what model you've got. There are quite a few different ways of fitting the blade on different machines. Some of the new machines now simply have a lever. You flick the lever, put the blade in, and that's it. Flick the lever, it ejects the blade. This one is slightly more complicated. This one involves turning this part at the top, which I'll show you in a minute. On the machine there we've got a lock button. You can see the padlock. That actually locks the machine, so that will stop the trigger from working. If we push the button back so it's unlocked, you can then squeeze the trigger and you'll find that you have a variable speed trigger. So that has proportionate control on. If you squeeze it gently, it goes very slowly, and if you squeeze it harder, the machine goes much faster. Underneath the machine we've got the base plate. This one actually has an anti-scratch plate on which you can remove. That can be taken off if you want to remove it. You should always use that if you're cutting a worktop or anything that can be scratched. You can then just use the metal plate, although I just tend to leave that on there all the time regardless of what I'm cutting. On this side of the machine we've got the dust blower. Not all jigsaws have this on. It is very useful if you're cutting some dusty materials. You can put that up to the top there and then that will blow some of the dust away from where you are cutting, which enables you to see the cut line more easily. If we take a look on this side, we've got a lever there for pendulum action. Pendulum action should only be used in wood. Instead of the blade going up and down in a straight line, it actually moves it forwards and backwards slightly, which enables you to cut rapidly. So on most materials, if you're cutting metal, you certainly want that in the off position, or plastic as well. You'd really only ever use that if you were cutting wood. It's important when you use a jigsaw that you put a decent blade in. Some blades are absolutely terrible. They flex like mad, which means you can never get a straight cut. If you always buy a decent quality blade, you're pretty much guaranteed that you'll be able to cut a really neat cut using a jigsaw. I'll now demonstrate how to remove the blade and refit the blade on this machine. We start on this machine by lifting up the top there, and then we turn it in that direction to unlock it. And down there we actually have some magnesium jaws which actually grip the blade. That means that you can use bayonet fitting blades or you can use straight shank blades in this machine. On most machines you can only use one type of blade. That is the bayonet fitting there. So I'll now put that back in there. To fit it back in, you simply push it all the way in and then turn the lever at the top there until it's tight. Once that's tight, you can then push it back down and then push it back into position. That blade is now firmly fixed in there. The jigsaw is currently set at the 90-degree position, but you can also change that by pulling that lever there. On some machines you need a screwdriver. You can then adjust the base plate, which enables you to do a bevel cut if required. This is something common that you'd use a jigsaw for. This is a notch in a piece of timber. That would be cut out to go around a post or something on a deck. You can cut this quite easily using the jigsaw. Before we do that, we're just going to put a pair of safety glasses on. Can now take the jigsaw. We've got a wood cutting blade in there. You'll see at the start, when you're starting off a cut, it is difficult because there's not a lot of the base that's actually resting on the wood. So until you get a fair distance in, it can be difficult holding the jigsaw. What I'm looking at doing here is getting that blade in exact alignment with the cut line. You don't want to be off like that when you start, either direction. You want to be perfectly aligned with that cut line. So we're now just going to squeeze the trigger gently and we're just going to cut up that line. We can now make the second cut. Now we need to make a curved cut and come round to that corner, or that corner, whichever is easiest for you. Now we've done that, we can now cut down this line to this corner. So that's one use of a jigsaw. You couldn't really do that with any other kind of saw, you would really struggle, but a jigsaw can do that quite comfortably.